Welcome to the Kentucky Avery modules on Tier 1 PBIS. In this module, we'll talk about how schools can monitor student behavior for the purpose of making decisions. In terms of the 4 key components of PBIS, we are still in the final box, which focuses on collecting and analyzing data. In the last module, we discussed data collection, and in this final module, we'll dig into how PBIS teams meet, consider data, and make data-based decisions. The big ideas behind data-based decision continue to be concerned with an alignment of logic and simplicity. We must ask, what does our data tell us, and what is the most logical next course of action based on that data? Data is collected by the entire school, but analysis is done by the PBIS team. If you remember from Module 1, the PBIS team is made up of a range of persons representative of all adults in the school. They meet monthly to look at the data and answer some specific questions and make decisions. For example, the team might determine that data shows increased problems in the hallway, indicating that the single strategy of poster reminders in the hallway has been ineffective. As a result, they discuss additional strategies that could be employed. As was discussed in the last module, all data and decisions must be made public and reported back to the full faculty and staff. The team's task is to use the data to answer 3 basic questions. First, how are our plans working? Second, what new things may have arisen? And third, what students are having problems that put them at risk of larger failures and require further intervention at a higher tier? The first question is based on what goals were set during the previous meeting. If the team had identified the cafeteria at breakfast as a major predictor and put a set of prevention procedures in place, they would want to look at the data for AM cafeteria to see whether it is getting better. If it is getting better, then they report that back to all with encouragement to keep going. If not, then they brainstorm new strategies, vote, and report that back to the full school. Any new strategies developed by the team are evaluated monthly and changed if not effective. The second question is whether any new predictors have come obvious in the data. For example, it might be that snowball throwing suddenly pops up in November. Seeing this in the data provides a reminder to all that the rules regarding snowballs needs to be reiterated school-wide. Finally, the team looks to identify students who are not responding successfully to the Tier 1 procedures. This requires a criterion number, and a good rule of thumb is to set a criterion that would identify about 15 to 20% of the school. Not all of these students will necessarily require Tier 2 interventions, but it is better to have false positives than false negatives. The next step for these students is to be evaluated. They are not automatically moved into any particular intervention. In some schools, if the criteria was set at more than 3 referrals, it wouldn't identify anyone. And in other schools, the same criterion might identify half the students. Each school needs to carefully consider their own criteria. Again, the idea is to use a criteria that identifies approximately 15 to 20% of the school. It is important to remember that the data coming before the team is confidential. The team reports back generalities and predictability, but does not show or discuss the names of specific students or adults. Ideally, teams would create graphic displays of their data. These are very helpful with discussions and provide a nice way of communicating complex data back to the school at large. Another benefit of graphic data is that it allows for quick comparisons across time. The graph shows the office referrals have dropped this year compared to last year. Of course, a team would still want to use data to even better predict who, what, when, where, and why, as they might be able to develop intervention plans to even further decrease problems. Some schools formalize their data collection process by creating a data wall, allowing the team to continuously look at data in comparison to other times, locations, and students. This level of formality is not necessary, but every team will have to determine how to note their findings at each meeting so that they have a point of reference for considering progress. As was mentioned in the last module, if adults do not see the data they've collected and do not understand how it is used, they are likely to stop following through the monitoring procedures. Data should be posted publicly and discussed in a summary fashion on a monthly basis. Now that you know about developing a monitoring plan, the next module will delve into how teens use data to make decisions.